More on that later, but here it is. We see that transition from, Elohe, Abraham, the Yitzchak, the Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, into a new chapter of the story with Moshe and his leadership of the people under the oppression of the Pharaoh. We're going to be getting into that grand Passover material before too long, so we are just seeing the story unfold, just begin to start. We are setting the stage for great miracles to come, the mighty hand and the outstretched arm and all that. Spoiler alert. But before we do that, we have Shemot. And we also have Alice and Solomon. We turn now to the book of Isaiah, and we turn to Shulamit Schaefer to bring our Haftarah, our words of Tanakhic commentary to us. You'll find it on page 343, page 343. It is Isaiah chapter 27, verse 6. Sorry. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We have an amazing parsha with an amazing God experience, God sighting, God telling kind of thing a little bit earlier on, and that's where we're going to spend a little bit of time today. In that moment at the burning bush, the bush that is burning but is not consumed by the fire, Moses talking, hearing the voice of God, and this question, when Moses asked, if I am elected, if I'm going to be the prophet and the voice for this whole divine enterprise, who should I say sent me? And God answers with a really remarkable name of God. We're going to come back to that in a second. Some of you know this story, I'm pretty sure, but I wasn't a good student in rabbinical school. This is true. In rabbinical school, when I was there at RRC, if you had problems with your academic performance or some other degree of your fitness for the rabbinate, you got a committee convened. Or in the verb form, you got committed. I got committed for my Hebrew grammar. It wasn't great when I first started at RRC. And lo and behold, they discontinued the Hebrew grammar class right in time for when I started. And so then they brought it back the next year, was able to work my way through that. Baruch Hashem. I always used to joke that I will take the grammar committee any day of the week over the personality committee. But I got committed over this, my lack of Hebrew grammar in my very first year of rabbinical school and how bad I was at that. But somebody told me later on about the committee proceedings and what was said about me when I was not present. And one of the things that I heard, which helped me stay the course, because it is a somewhat demoralizing thing when you are being committed in grad school. Maybe this is not for you in point of fact. The committee either dissolves or you get committed right out the door. And what one of those rabbis said about me, who wound up being later on my advisor and a mentor of mine to this day, Rabbi Jacob Staub, I am told that what he said about me in the committee was, Nick is a rabbi. He's already a rabbi. He's going to be a rabbi. We just have to fill him with this stuff. That meant a lot to me because I didn't see that in myself at that time. And so to have somebody who I viewed as a teacher and a mentor of the highest order, one of our Gedolim of the movement, say that about me when I was not in a place to see that in myself, that he was able to see something about who I was going to grow into rather than who I was where I was working on my Hebrew grammar at age 23 or 4 or whatever it was. He saw something that I didn't see in myself. I had a similar experience with Rabbi Amy Bernstein of Kehilat Israel in Pacific Palisades, California. When I went out there to interview at this synagogue, I was still in rabbinical school. I was at a point of quasi-disbelief that they were actually going to graduate me and make me a rabbi. I kind of thought something was going to stop that whole process along the way, put the brakes on it, but alas, nothing did. It looked like I was actually going to be a rabbi. And Amy, I remember at my interview there at KI saying to me, you got what it takes. You can't take a duck to eagle school, but you're an eagle, and we can take you to school. Think that over. It's kind, and it's also like it's a lot, but that's fine. But again, it was somebody who saw something in me that I did not see in myself, that I did not recognize in myself, that I was not in a position to be able to see. And so that brings us back to the parsha. What is this name of God by which God introduces God's self to Moses? Anybody? Thank you, Mitch. Mitch is very good at the Torah games here, as we saw last week with the competition with Kita Dalit, the fourth grade, held his own very mightily against the fourth grade. And Mitch is also correct in this instance. Ehyeh asher ehyeh. Who would care to translate that for me? David.
Basically, I will be as I shall be, something like that.
Great. I will be as I shall be. Somebody give me another translation. Yes. I am that I am. Does anybody have another translation they want to give me? I was that I was. Did y'all catch what's going on here? We're playing in tenses. We're playing in temporality, in time. David probably gave us what I would grammatically understand to be the closest translation. Don't trust my grammar, I got committed over it. But grammatically, my understanding is that's probably the closest to the exact semantic meaning of the words. I will be that which I will be. Ehyeh. Hollis gave us, I am that I am, in the present tense. So now we have future and present. And Allison, thank you for rounding out the trifecta there, giving us the past tense. Was that I was. We have 3 different translations of the same name of God, in which we can't seem to settle on the temporality of it. What tense is it, friends? I have a funny feeling it was that future tense, but again, I don't trust my grammar. But at the same time, all of these are valid translations. All of these are valid readings. I want to suggest that this name of God, just like our Torah, what's Torah in English, anybody? Law. Wait, what was the second one? Teaching, thank you. Instruction. It is law, it is full of law, but it also comes from a word that means instruction, teaching. The same word is morah, ha-morah osnat. I want to make the suggestion here that that name of God, we know from praying all of this stuff, from the infinite nature of God, the ein odness, that God was, is, and will be. Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimloch, Le'olam Va'ed, for those of you who have heard it before. God will be sovereign king. God was sovereign. God is sovereign. God will be sovereign. All of that. We get that. And so I want to suggest that in the same way that this scroll that we whipped out a few minutes ago and read all of these stories and read the will of God and holiness and our people's relationship to God was an instruction, so too is this name of God. It is an instruction. It is an instruction to Moshe. This is the God of appointing Moshe for a kind of purpose. You've got to go talk to the Pharaoh, say the unpopular, miserable thing, undergo all of the strife, the negotiation, the misery, haul this people that doesn't in particular have faith in you out through a sea that is going to split somehow, because that's a thing, and then into the desert where they're going to kvetch and whine and moan and, undermine you at times too. You've got to do all of this stuff. Moses has a hard time seeing it. I don't blame Moses. If you were in that moment, the child grown up in Pharaoh's palace, you're one of them actually, and you just happen to be in trouble with the law because you struck down a taskmaster for beating some guy up. No, you have to go back there and free the entire people. Feels like a tall order to me. Feels almost impossible. And this is where I think the tenses piece of this instruction comes into play. God is saying something about God's self, past, present, and future. And God is saying something to Moses, an instruction about not just who you were, not just who you are this day, having knocked down that Egyptian taskmaster for beating an Israelite slave, having actually made a stand for something is right, but who you can be, who you will be in point of fact, because Moses doesn't have any way of seeing that. And I want to extend out that instructional piece from God, because we all know we are made B'Tselem Elohim. Torah tells us we are made in the image of God. So too, there is a great deal that we can learn actually in terms of our own selves, what it is we're capable of, looking at our highest moments rather than our worst failures. That's a hard thing to do sometimes, to try and view yourself in the backdrop of the utmost of your capabilities rather than the dumbest thing that you said on Tuesday. But it's an important thing, and it's a holy thing. Because I want to suggest within that ability to see yourself in terms of what it is you can do in this world in making it better and holier, there is a kind of invitation, an imperative, an instruction that this whole thing is still in motion. God is in fact in motion. This is a famous idea, process theology, the idea that God is trajectory rather than one who stands in place in this sense. A lot of Reconstructionists got deep into that idea, and today the mantle is actually carried by the conservative Rabbi Bradley Artson out of the West Coast, out of the Ziegler School. Thank you. But that idea that God is in process, and we're supposed to learn something about ourselves from God being in process. That we too, not only are we allowed to be in process, but that's holy. Not only are we permitted to be growing and finding that which we want to be and the ways in which we want to live into this world and lean into this world and figuring out a better way around some of our worst impulses, that, yeah, maybe God is doing that too, and that is holy. That we may not be able to see in ourselves what it is fully we can become or do, or how it is we can fully be there. We may not be able to see the most beautiful version of ourselves as it's seen by other people who maybe get us better than we get ourselves, or maybe even seen by God who gets us better than we get ourselves. But to have faith that that version of ourselves is there. Ehyeh asher ehyeh. I will be what I will be. I am what I am. I was what I was. Hebrew grammar and all. And there's the potential here to continue to grow and to continue to become something holy in ways that are difficult for us to even see within ourselves. Keep growing. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We continue on page